This year, the Middle East will host two premier global events, COP27 and the World Cup. Have any sustainability lessons been learned that can be applied in other countries?
The World Cup event I can actually speak about here. It created the spark, and a big spark, I would say, in the region, as the first Arab country that actually hosts the World Cup and bring forward even, actually, I would say, a big event, especially after the times where socially, countries were somewhere isolated due to COVID measures as well. So in all senses, we are actually committed to deliver carbon neutral event in the sense of how it's constructed, the way of transportation, and also even the way that we are actually also continuing to keep it as you can call it not only one event, but forward even actually to the future as well, where it's going to bring forward all elements towards actually the society, the environment, and also all the social aspects of it, especially on the area of also on human capital and human development, where it's going to bring forward not only one learning, but it's going to be considered as one of the institutes of learning how sustainability actually works and practices in real life. But by all means, it's not only the region actually energy forward to it, but actually the World Cup would bring forward, I would say, the world together in one social aspect.
Thank you. Anyone else on this or the meeting coming up in Egypt?
Shargil, would you like to go first?
Thanks, Dalia. No, I think it's difficult, at least at this point, to look at lessons learned as both events will take place later in 2022. However, I do think that having the COP27 coming to this region and then having COP28 coming to Abu Dhabi in 2023 are extremely important events. These are the world's biggest climate summits. These are the events where some of the biggest decisions will be taken for the future of sustainability and decarbonization. I think that Egypt is well placed in taking this discussion up. I know that the government of Egypt and the private sector in Egypt is so focused on this event. And we saw at COP26 the outcomes, and one of the main outcomes which I really appreciated was the involvement of the private sector. I think many have said that this was the COP where the private sector really got involved and showed up. And I think that this is the alliance and collaboration that is required between the public sector and the private sector, where the policymakers are there, but you have the input from the private sector that how can be achieved. So we take the commitments to concrete actions are extremely important. And that's why these events are important. And I'm sure that in Egypt, you will see a lot of engagement from the private sector. And I'm sure that will also be the case at the COP28 taking place in Abu Dhabi. And I do hope that there's a lot of engagement from the private sector in this region. Africa is an extremely important continent. It's extremely important that the MENA region, from an energy perspective, is extremely important. I think, to my knowledge, I think it's one of the few times we have seen two consecutive COPs coming to the same region, and I think it shows the importance of this region, why we need to focus. And I'm sure that both Egypt and UAE will do their very best to showcase how these difficult discussions can be taken, but also try to move from commitments to actions. So we see some really strong results in these extremely, extremely important topics.
Okay. Dalia, you wanted to talk on this?
Yes, I want to add to what Justin mentioned. I think having the World Cup, although I'm not into football, but having the World Cup in the MENA region, amid all this geopolitical crisis that we are witnessing, is a very good opportunity to get globally citizens of the world together. And further to Shargil, talking about COP26, very valid point that COP26 was about the private sector. Other than that, it is the COP of less than met expectations or unmet expectations. There were incremental progress with the methane, the deforestation, pledges here and there. However, the high point of COP26 was the private sector, precisely the GFANs. And the introduction of the International Sustainability Standards Board, which signified that there will be reporting on non-financials. These two achievements or outcomes of COP26, I think they provide the baseline for COP27 and COP28, because it's very significant that both COPs are hosted in the MENA region. And this is quite an opportunity. As much as it is an opportunity, it will be a lost opportunity. So it's kind of high gain, high pain if we do not utilize it. How can we build on COP26? How can we take it from Glasgow to Sharm el-Sheikh to the Emirates, to Abu Dhabi? I think we have accountability and responsibility of financial institutions in the MENA and Africa to make sure that the supply side of sustainable investments that materialize from the GFANs, which account for $130 trillion assets that are ready to be channeled to sustainable investments. However, the demand side is underdeveloped, understructured. The pipeline of bankable and investable projects, climate adaptation projects. I think we should all collaborate in MENA and Africa to make sure that we have a consolidated effort or a sustainable finance governance mechanism that works on three things: developing our sustainable finance taxonomy, introducing a very robust ESG data digitization for transparency, given all the talk around greenwashing that's developing nowadays. The third thing is getting together to develop a pipeline of investable projects that would prove the business case for and entice sustainable investors. And we are 5 months prior to COP27, and this means that we have to race with time to make sure, because it will be a lost opportunity if you don't make sure, because there are funds. Whenever we go to any panel, any conference, it's becoming very fashionable for every panelist to say, funding is not a problem. What is a problem is to have bankable, investable projects that know how to report to investors. Just that. So if we focus on that, we will make sure that COP27 and 28 are the COPs that really materialized into saving continents and saving lives from starvation, drought, and lack of energy. And this puts an accountability on us as bankers or financial institutions, because every COP adds incremental change, but we have to leapfrog, because given the pace of climate change and environmental destruction and biodiversity erosion, we could be there when it's too late. So our challenge now is how to accelerate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And Joanne, if I can just add to Dr. Dalia's, right? I think since we are having a discussion here, it might be also in place to make a wish list for COP27. And I think as the point Dr. Dalia mentioned, two hopes from my side is that we get more actions out of COP27. So what can you concretely do in order to support the ambitions, targets we all have? And the secondly is more alignment, because we are seeing a lot of regulation coming. We have now seeing everybody working on aligning standards, and all this is required. However, we need to make sure that we don't drown in the different text and discussion that needs to be made. As I read recently, that right now more than 25 different taxonomies around the world are being developed for each country on sustainability. Which will be very unfortunate since the world is so global, that you have different levels of taxonomy. So if EU have one definition of taxonomy, what is green, Egypt have a different one, UAE have a third one, Qatar has another one, KSA has another one, US has another one. That is not going to be beneficial for anyone. We need to come to an alignment that we have a common understanding of what is sustainable, what is green, so we don't have, as an organization, as sustainable, as financing institutions, we don't have to sit and think about, no, this is green, accepted in this country, but it's not accepted in that country. We need to have that common understanding. Also, for the corporates, the clients who will need to work with this day to day, to understand that, okay, if I have this product, is accepted as sustainable in one country but not another country, that is not a situation we want to be in. So I do hope, and I really hope that we get to a point that there is a more alignment on the regulation as well. So we make things simple enough that to the people who, end of the day, is going to make a big difference in order to achieve those sustainable targets.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else on the subject?
Yes, please, if I may. So if I go to one of the principles that actually goes to the UN global impact, you would find that we are actually accountable and responsible as corporates and companies, banks alike as well, up to even further down the chain, first, second, third contractors as well. So under that principle, actually, we are part of a bigger, you can call it a globe, not as one individual or one company that actually operates. We are part of the chain. Nevertheless, I mean, based also on my colleagues' also points, we are part of a chain here. In a bigger concept, we need to really enhance and further actually ensure that we drive the culture forward. We drive the positiveness towards the environment, positiveness towards sustainable future, and also really uplifting and raising the societies to, you can call it, to a more conscious and responsible approach towards their economy, application, and lives in general. But by all means, it's a bigger chain. It's not one-sided aspect.